Okay, welcome to another GMBN maintenance video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to set up your cockpit. I'm going to be going through stem length, bar width, bar roll, setup of your handlebars, onto the grips, and then right through brake lever. And it's all about making sure that you have better control on that bike. So let's get into it. Now, when I go about setting up my cockpit, I like to do it in a specific order. The first thing that I'm going to start with is actually the stem and the spaces underneath that stem. This has a direct relation as to how you're going to be on the bike, how much weight is going to be over the front or how much is going to be on the rear. If you have less spaces underneath that stem, then you're more likely to have more weight on that front wheel. If you've got the stem higher up, well, it's going to push your weight over the rear. So to start with a balance point, you want to have a couple of spaces left over on top, so do not cut that steer tube too short. And then the other thing you can talk about with stem is actually the length of it. Again, that's going to affect your weight distribution on the bike. A longer one will bring your weight further forward over the bike, and a shorter one will bring you over the back more and give you a little bit more control. Okay, so to adjust that stem, well, it is dead easy. All I'm going to need is a 5mm Allen key to undo the top cap and then a 4mm Allen key to undo the stem bolts. I'm then going to put 10mm on top and 10mm below, and that's going to be my neutral starting point. Okay, so now I've got that set up, it's into my neutral position, tighten my headset and tighten the stem back up. We're going to move on to the handlebars. Now there are a number of different things that you can think about here. Number one being width, but we'll get onto that in a second. What I want to talk about is the actual rise of the bars. So these ones are 20mm, you can get them in increments of 10, 20, 30, even 40 depending on the rise that you want to go for. They have back sweep and also up sweep, and you can adjust this using the bar roll. So it's dead easy to do. What you actually just do is undo these 4 bolts and then you can just rotate them backwards and forwards. So we're going to do that right now. So with that loosened off, what I'm going to do now is just set up that bar roll. Now if I actually roll it forwards, it's going to pull my weight again further over the front. Roll it back, and my weight is going to be on the rear more. So you want to get it in a neutral position really just to start off. So I'm just going to play around till it feels comfortable. The back sweep isn't really affecting me too much. My arms feel like they've got a bend in them and everything feels lined up through my wrist, my elbow and my shoulders. Once I've got into that position, I'm just going to tighten those stem bolts back up. And at this point, it's a really cool thing that you can actually use this indicator that's on the bars right here. I've got 0 to 5. And you can line up with the stem, so when you do adjust it, you can always remember where you've changed it from, where you're changing it to. It's just a great way to remember what you're doing. We've now discussed stem length, the stem height, we've talked about bar roll, it's now on to the bar width, which is one big question. A lot of people have debate about how wide you should actually have your bars. Now I'm 6'2" and these bars are 780mm in width. They're totally stock, I've not cut them down, I find that they work perfectly for me. The best advice I can give you here is trial and error. Do not get a brand new bike and then just cut the bars down immediately. Go for a couple of rides, get into the bike, feel if the bars are too wide for you, are you having problem getting through sort of smaller gaps in between trees or something like that, and then just work down in really small increments. The great thing is a lot of the bars have actually got increments already marked in them, so you can actually cut it down just by 5mm at a time on each side and then work down until you've found perfection. Before we get into the really nitty-gritty details of setting up the cockpit on the shifters and also the brake levers, what I want to talk about is the grips. Now these are the Ergon GD1s that you see us running in pretty much all of the videos. I absolutely love these things, they fit me perfectly, but grips are so personable. You know, you can't really find a grip that works for every single person. Some people like thinner ones, some people like thicker ones. For me, these are slightly tapered. What that means is they're a little bit thinner at the start of the grip where I hold on with both my thumb and my first finger, and then they get thicker as it goes out. And this just gives me a little bit of extra damping when I'm riding on the bike. So I'm going to take away some of those extra vibrations that are going to go up my forearms. So if you're in a bike shop, perhaps the best thing is actually just to get them out of the package. Try them, hold on to them and see if you like them before you fit them onto your bike. Okay, so let's get on to those really finer details. I like to keep it in that order, doing the stem, then the bars, then the grips, and then finally onto the levers and also the brakes. So all you need to adjust is one bolt, and I'm going to use a T25 for my brakes. It could be an Allen key that you need to use. So I'm just going to come onto the bars, I'm going to loosen that off, and then we're going to start adjusting. Just do one brake at a time, and I really just like to go off it and feel. And I want to go back to that point that I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video where you want to have sort of a straight line through your wrist, elbow, and then onto the shoulder. Once you've got that, just play around a few times, just tap the brake lever down, have a look down, make sure everything's feeling comfortable, get into that sort of riding position, And then we're going to tighten up the first brake lever. So I'm happy with that. Let's get on and do the rear. It's exactly the same, just gonna use my T25, undo that, and then I can start adjusting it. And that is feeling pretty comfortable. A tip that I can give you right here, sometimes just close your eyes, because then you don't really fuss over them looking exactly the same and you go off feel rather than looks. That is good. Just gonna drop that down, tighten that back up, and then we can get on to the next adjustment, which is the actual reach. Just using this little knob right here, you can turn that in or out, get that dialed in so you can get it sitting perfect. One point that I have forgotten to mention at this point though, is the fact that I'm using one finger braking. So I've actually slid that brake lever right along the bar. So I've got my finger and it's just getting into that little kind of clasp right there at the end of the brake lever, and it's giving me the maximum amount of pull I can pull on that brake lever, giving me the force to pull that brake on and stop me when I need to. Okay, so that leaves two things to get dialed in. One, the shifter, and two, the dropper post. I'm gonna start with the shifter. There's not so much adjustment that I have to do here, but it's just making sure that I'm comfortable with it. So you can undo this bolt right here and you can put it in two different positions, one closer to the bar and one slightly further away. So with these two controls, what you're really looking to get it set up for is so you don't really have to take your thumb away from the handlebar, giving you maximum stability and holding onto those bars super tight. So what I'm looking for is just to make sure that my thumb sits perfectly on both the triggers without moving it around too much, and both are feeling good. There is one more adjustment that I could do if I really felt like it, and there's a 3mm Allen key just in there that I can adjust to move the bigger paddle around to be in a better position, but I'm quite happy with where it is. And then let's move on to the other side of the bars where I've got the dropper post. As you guys can see, it's pretty much perfectly set for me, so I'm not going to adjust that, but it's super easy to do. Okay guys, well there is an in-depth guide on how to set up your cockpit. I hope you found it useful, and if you've got any comments or questions, then leave them in the section down below. If you want to watch more videos from GMBN, then make sure you subscribe because you'll never miss one again. And if you want to watch a video all about maintenance hacks, then click just somewhere about there and you'll get through to that. Or perhaps you want to set that bike up for comfort, click just there. Don't forget, give this video a thumb up like, and if you found it useful, then share it with a friend. Cheers!